Welcome to Becoming a Cook. I'm Charlie Wetzel. Today I want to talk to you about how to cut up a chicken. Now when you go to the grocery store, what do you buy? Do you buy boneless, skinless chicken breasts? Do you buy thighs? Do you buy drumsticks? Do you buy wings? Does it depend on what you're cooking or what your mood is? What I really want to recommend to you is that you cut your chickens up yourself. You're going to save a lot of money. If you buy a whole chicken, like this one, I bought this for $1.01 a pound. This weighs about 4 pounds, a little over 4 pounds, so this is $4. So you can buy an entire chicken for $4, or you can buy a chicken breast for $4. You tell me what's the better deal. I want to cut this up a couple of different ways. I want to show you how to quarter it and then cut it into pieces. You start the same way, but in the middle I'm going to take a detour and I'll show you one way and then the other. So let's get started. All right, so this is my whole chicken. All I've done is take it out of the bag and drain some of the juices off of it into the sink. The first thing I want to do is I want to take the wishbone out of this part where the breasts are. And if you've eaten a turkey, you're probably familiar with the wishbone. I'm going to do this in a little bit of an awkward way so you can see it. And all I want to do is I want to take enough of this skin off so that I have access to it. I'm turning this kind of a funky way so that you can see it. But I'm just going to take this. Sometimes this skin is really long and you have to cut off a big piece. That's not true in this one. Then I'm going to take the knife. I'm going to hold this in one hand and I'm going to scrape that wishbone until it gets exposed. And then I want to do the same thing on the other side. You notice I'm holding the knife the opposite way though. I just want to do that so that I can get my fingers in here and grab the wishbone. The reason you're doing this is you don't leave as much meat behind on the carcass when you pull this out. So there's the wishbone. Comes out whole. That goes in the stock pot. Now that I've taken care of that, I want to get access, because really, you think about this, there are 2 breasts here with wings attached, and there are 2 leg quarters here, a thigh and a drumstick. I'm going to go ahead and do quarters on one side. The first thing I'm going to do is just cut this skin, and I'm cutting this yellow skin and the skin that's underneath, or flesh that's underneath, so that I get this exposed here. So this is rib cage, and this is the thigh. I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. So I've got rib cage there. All right, so now I've got access to both of these. I'm going to go ahead and, as I said, quarter it on the one side. When I do a chicken breast by itself, I take part of this wing off because it makes for a nice presentation. There's 3 pieces here, the tip, and then 2 joints here. I'm going to go to this shortest one closest and just cut midway between these 2 joints until I hit bone. And then I'm just going to pop this back so that disjoints. I'm going to take that off and set that aside. Then I'm going to take this breast off. So there's a piece of cartilage that runs right up the center of this bird. It's called a keel bone. And what you want to do is you want to put your knife on one side of that keel bone. So I'm going to go ahead and lay my knife there. I don't usually stand this way when I do this, but I'm trying to get this angle so you can see it. And I'm cutting. I'm going to hit bone down low, but up here there's cartilage. And I really don't want to cut through that cartilage if I can help it. And then I'm just going to run my finger right up along there. So you can see there's the carcass. From there, let me turn this the other way. I'm going to run my knife right down this bone. I don't know if you can see that bone. And I'm going to run it down there until I cut right through the joint where the wing was. And then I'm going to separate the skin. This tender I want to stay on there, and I'll just pull this off. So there's the chicken breast. They call it a supreme because it's got this little bone on it, which makes for a really nice presentation. Now, by the way, if I want wings, I've got this piece of the wing. I'm going to take this tip off and cut this right through this joint. My hand's gotten a little slippery, so let me take care of that. This towel's going to go in the wash when I'm done, by the way. So I've got this part of the wing. And if I wanted wings, I could take this and just cut this right off here, and this would be the other half of the wing, like you see in hot wings. But I'm going to leave this whole because I want to bake that. Now, normally I would take this other piece off next, and maybe I'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to leave this on because for this one, I'm going to cut this into a breast and a wing. So I'm going down that keel bone again. I'm being careful not to cut through the cartilage. And if you cut through the cartilage, it's okay. It's just easier if you don't. And then I'm going to put my knife right here. So I hit bone. And then once again, I'm going to run this knife right down that bone until it goes right through that joint. And then and take that off. So I've got the breast and the wing. If I want to serve these separately, then I want a little bit of meat where this joint is. You can cut it from the top or from the bottom, it doesn't matter. It's a little bit easier to see from here. So if I cut this like this, I've got a little bit of meat on that, and there's my wing ready to be cooked. And the chicken breast here. All right, so now I've got this part, the 2 leg quarters. I'm going to disjoint these thighs. I'm going to pull this back. That's not the direction it goes in nature. I don't know if you can hear that crunch. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So now these have been dislocated. And you can see, here's the bone right here. This makes it much easier to work with. Now taking my knife, you can see when I push this back, there's a little lump here. That's a piece of meat. In New Orleans where I grew up, they call that the oyster. I don't know what it really is. But I'm going to take the tip of my knife and I'm going to just try to scoop that piece of meat right there. And now I'm at the joint and I want to cut this and I want to keep my knife close to the bone so that I'm getting whatever meat's on there. So there's my leg quarter. This has a little bit of fat right here and extra skin, so I'm going to take that off. That goes in the stock pot too. There's also a little bit of extra fat right here. I'm just going to scrape that off. So there's my leg quarter. So I'll take this leg quarter off as well. I'm going to scoop this piece of meat again with the tip of my knife. And you can use a utility knife for this. You would not want to use a paring knife because it's too small. A chef's knife works great because it's versatile and can do anything. So here's my carcass. That goes in the stock pot too. Now, this other leg quarter, once again, there's a little bit of extra skin there. I'm going to take this into 2 pieces, into a thigh and a drumstick. If I move this, I can kind of get a sense of where that joint is. It's right about there. So I'm going to cut from this angle, and hopefully I'll hit the joint on the first try, which I did. So if you're cutting up a chicken, say to grill or to bake, if you want it in parts, here you have drumstick, thigh, wing, and breast. If you're wanting to do quarters, you have a leg quarter and a chicken breast. Whatever you're trying to do, whether you're wanting to do drumsticks or different pieces, let's say you wanted to do all chicken breasts. Well, you buy a couple of chickens, You bone these out and you've got the chicken breast for one meal and you've got the leg quarters or the other pieces for another meal. This is the most economical way to go if you want to buy chicken. You have every kind of piece you want. If you want it skinless, you just rip the skin off. And you've got a carcass to make stock. And I'll show you that in another video.